And joining me now is Joel Nowakowski from Bridge Tax Advisors. And Joel, good to see you back here in the program.
Good to see you back, Dennis.
So let's talk about the headlines for 2026 as people are now starting to think about getting their taxes, right?
Yes.
And doing their taxes and filing them. The big, beautiful bill was the big financial story last year. How does that impact taxpayers?
Sure. So the big, beautiful bill, you've heard a lot of noise around it, a lot of media coverage. But really what it is, it's makes permanent of what was already existing, because a lot of those provisions were set to expire at the end of the year. So what the big beautiful bill did, in effect, was make a lot of what was there permanent. So what you want to be on the lookout for as a taxpayer this year is deductions, increase in standard deduction, certain credits phasing in, phasing out. So be aware of that.
Overall, are there any tax brackets that are getting big reductions or big increases?
Sure, yeah. So what we've seen is that there's been a bump up in some of the tax brackets. You've also seen a nice increase in the standard deduction. So if you had a refund in prior years, this year you could possibly see a little bit of a larger refund, which is a good thing.
What about seniors?
So seniors, the bill didn't necessarily affect seniors particularly, but what seniors always have to be on the lookout for is they have income sources from various places, right? You have Social Security, you have retirement income, you have maybe pension income, maybe there's a part-time job. So the seniors really need to pay attention to the mix of where their income is coming in from, because that may impact their tax situation come tax time.
What are some examples of the mistakes that people make in terms of like a specific deduction that they should have taken?
Sure. So some of the things that I see taxpayers miss are certain credits or deductions that they would otherwise qualify for that they miss. Some of the things that I see individuals, maybe they don't pick up on income that they had throughout the year, like a side gig, right? You got to report your income. And if you had a side gig or a side hustle, report that income. If you had investment income, make sure you're reporting all of your income, and that's being brought onto your tax return.
Some of the laws and the changes take a while to kick in. Do you see anything on the horizon for 27 that's going to be a big change from this year?
There's always changes, so it's hard to predict what's going to come in the future. But there's one thing that you can be sure of: there's always going to be changes. So you just got to be on the lookout for those changes and how those changes impact your specific tax situation, because it's different for every taxpayer.
Do you usually advise people that they should donate more money? Is that helpful?
I don't advise clients that they should donate more money, but if they're going to make a donation, they should consider whether or not this is going to impact them from a tax standpoint. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I say to taxpayers, look, if you're going to donate, and you want to go ahead and donate, that's a good thing, but don't necessarily have it come from a tax standpoint.
And what are the rules as to go by in terms of the filing deadlines, right? Your employer must send everything by January 31st, correct?
Correct. Your employer, or if you did, say, for
All your
instance,
financial documents.
Your financial documents, if you have investment income, if you had a side hustle or a side gig, or you're an independent contractor, all of those tax documents will start coming in towards the end of the month, beginning of February, and it's really important to assemble all those, keep them in one place, and then when you're ready to prepare your taxes, make sure you capture everything.
And if you're getting a refund, you should file right away. That's the rule, right? Because you want that money, you know?
Yeah, generally speaking, if you're anticipating a refund, it's good to kind of get going and get that money back into your pocket, for sure.
And if you are going to owe a lot, pay on the very last second, right?
I wouldn't advise on that. If you're going to owe money, you're going to owe money. So I would encourage you to pay that bill as soon as you possibly can, because you could potentially run into a situation where you're paying penalties and interest.
Always great advice. Joel Nowakowski from Bridge Tax Advisors. We thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Dennis, for having me.
Best of luck. The new year has brought some new laws to our state, with much to be aware of as they start to go into effect. News 8 political reporter Mike Cerulli looks back on the whirlwind of 2025 and what all this new legislation means now that it's in place.
It was a whirlwind year for the Connecticut legislature, from responding to the deluge of policy changes in Washington to a blockbuster fight over housing policy that saw fierce partisan debate, a veto by the governor, and a November special session. The bill that resulted from all that back and forth over housing is perhaps the single most significant piece of legislation to be signed into law. Despite all that conflict, the outlines of the debate over how far the state should go in its quest to build more housing and help the homeless remain largely unchanged.
If you want business, you have to have employees. If you want employees, you have to have housing.
Give us time, we can develop them, and developments can make sense. But forcing it on towns where it doesn't make sense, particularly in areas where it doesn't make sense, is a bad way to go.
Though the full impacts of the new housing and homelessness law likely won't be felt for months or even years, starting January 1st, municipalities will be prohibited from constructing what advocates for the homeless call hostile architecture. Think bars on some park benches that prevent people from laying down. Also going into effect on January 1st, new training requirements for law enforcement on how to interact with people with intellectual disabilities. New yellow envelopes will help identify those people to police at traffic stops.
It keeps both the driver and the police officer safe. It establishes expectations, and I think just would make the interaction go a lot smoother.
I'm Mike Cerulli, News 8.
After the break, a Democratic challenger in the race for the 2nd Congressional District.